Right, closers, we've got another excellent show. We're going to be going over, you've heard of the disc profile. We're going to go on a deep dive on what is the disc profile. How does that impact sales? How does that even impact your relationship with your spouse, perhaps? That's one thing we're going to go over. The next thing we're going to go over today is 5 minutes of gut in sales. And then we're going to save the third thing for last. I have Angie Weidel. She is the second time on our show. She is the owner of Blended Strategies. Angie, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
Yes.
Pleasure to be here again. I look forward to being with you.
Oh, so you and I met, and the first time, there are people you remember meeting for the first time. And I was in a networking meeting called Breakfast of Champions in New Orleans, and and they invited you to come up and introduce yourself.
Yes.
And you had hot pink shoes on, hot pink pants on,
Pants.
and you took complete ownership of that room within about 3 seconds. You own the entire room. So, you make an impression coming in the door. And I've never forgotten that, but that's important because people remember you. And that's what we're gonna
For better or for worse.
everything we go over is how do you make that impression so you can connect with somebody? And we're gonna unpack that. But I have a question for you before we get started.
Okay.
What is the biggest mistake you see salespeople make today?
Oh, the biggest?
Yes, the biggest.
Oh Lord, I'm gonna have to think about that. I see a lot of them. I've made a lot of them.
Yeah.
Um, confidence.
Confidence.
Confidence in themselves that they can do it. So many times there are so many things that are gonna knock your confidence down.
Hmm.
The customer feeling rejected, uh if you're selling something that requires operations to do something other than what you're doing and having to
Hmm.
hand that off and maybe that
Hmm.
not necessarily going right. Um, fear of messing up, so many things can shake your tree.
Yeah.
And if you can just live through your core values, show up, know how you communicate, manage your energy,
Hmm.
it all just really can boost your confidence to a great degree. And I
Well,
think confidence is the thing that they mistake. I would say a mistake, but it's more of a, I love people and I want
yeah.
to see people succeed, I guess. And so
Mhm.
I don't know if it's really a mistake as much as I see a lot of fear
Yeah.
and I kind of want to let people know, hey, it's okay. We're
Yeah.
all humans.
I think people do. I mean, so go back to my opening comment. When you walked in that room,
Mhm.
I mean, you owned that room. There was no doubt that you were confident of what you were talking about that day.
Yeah.
Um, but that goes to just being okay with maybe being not perfect about everything.
Bingo.
Yeah. And just
Bingo.
that takes the edge off, takes the nerves off.
Yeah.
And just stepping into it because and that stops so many people just from taking the first step. So, yeah.
I've learned the older I get, I've learned that I've got to take my comfort with.
Yeah.
I can't go there and find it.
Mhm.
I have to take the comfort that I have when I'm with my closest family and friends and when alone and I'm by myself. First of all, it took me a long time to actually like myself.
Mhm.
So that's a big one.
Yeah.
But once I kind of got there, I had to say, "Oh, I can take my comfort with me."
Yeah.
And so whatever little mind tricks or little tips and things that you have to take with you to bring that comfort in the room with you, you
Mhm.
just do it. And a lot of that has come from I don't have to people please and I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah. It's
My
tr
goal is not to be perfect. My goal
Yeah.
is to be memorable.
Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you what throws me going into networking meetings. So I'm comfortable. You put me on a stage and I've got
Mhm.
30 minutes. Put me in front of 500 people. I'm fine. Give me 1 minute. Oh my gosh, my brain explodes and I stumble. I'm like, okay, that has been, I started the whole networking thing 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because my prior life running trade associations, when you run a trade association, by the nature of the trade association, people come to you. But when you go
Mhm.
out in consulting world, you have to go out to them, hence the networking. And that 1 minute pitch. So the way I took the edge off is I'm willing to make myself look like a fool, and I'm willing to try something new every single time. And it's okay if I completely bomb.
Well,
And I lets me go to just
yeah.
try, throw something out there. I do think through it for sure, but
Yeah. Well, and the goal is not to cram everything that you do into 60 seconds. You know,
that's the biggest
you
mistake
can't
I see
you
people make.
can't you can't cram everything into that 60 seconds or in some cases 30 seconds. The goal is just to capture people's attention and have them come to you later and ask you what you do. So can
Yeah,
you give enough information,
to tease them.
just enough to tease them to get them to come back to you and say, "What is it you do?" And look, at the time, people don't remember who I worked for or what I did, but
Mhm.
they do remember me.
Yes.
And they will come to me and say, "Hey, are you still doing whatever it was you were doing there?" And I'll be like,
Mhm.
"No, I'm doing this now." And they were like, "Oh, tell me about that," because they want to have, because ultimately the what you're selling in that kind of a situation with networking is
Mm,
not your product. It's you.
that's right.
You have to sell you. You're looking for referral partners.
Mm,
You're not going to get a sale at a networking event.
mhm.
You
That
know,
that
you have to sell you.
that is so true, and I think the number one mistake I see people make with the networking thing is that when you have that 1 minute pitch,
Hmm.
they have 2 businesses and they try to talk about both, and it never works because
Pick one.
you gotta pick one. Yeah.
There are times when I go to networking events and I don't even talk about my business. If I've got like I for example, I'm very, very involved in my local Folds of Honor event
Mhm,
benefit.
mhm,
And so that's coming up at the end of this month. And so there are times when I'll go to a networking event and I won't even talk about blended strategies. I'll
mhm.
talk about that because
Yes,
I'm not going to cram the two in.
you can't.
I don't want the attention to be split.
Yes.
And it's like, well, what do I need to do? As a business owner, I kind of have a little bit more flexibility than probably a salesperson does.
Mhm.
Um, but there are times when I'm just like, I'm not going to compete with that.
Yeah. That makes all the sense in the world. And different personalities, and we'll use this to segue into the DISC,
Yeah.
explanation because I've taken the DISC test years ago. I forget what all the 4 letters, different letters mean, um, and how to best integrate your way we communicate, but it does help. You started going over with it a little bit with me last week, and I'm like, "Okay, yes, that makes sense, that makes sense." So let's unpack the DISC for people because people hear that and they just want to know, what is it? How does it impact me in sales? And you mentioned you've seen it change relationships.
Oh, yeah. So basically, man has been trying to understand themselves since the beginning of time. I think
Mhm,
I said this on the last podcast. You know, you
mhm,
look at the zodiac, it's clock. You look at, there was a time when people would describe themselves by earth, fire, water, air. They used bodily fluids at one point. It was like somebody was sanguine if they had high blood. They were choleric if they were kind of melancholy, just all these different things. And I mean, the Chinese zodiac uses animals, and traits of animals, year of the rooster, year of the tiger, those kinds of things. Um, and now you've got the Enneagrams, which give you numbers, and you've got the Myers Briggs, which is like the IENFJ or whatever those are. And so basically, DISC is no different. There's 4 quadrants. It's basically saying, okay, we're going to put all the Myers Briggs focuses on 16 personalities. It's like that's a lot. We're going to focus on 4. So you have D is dominant, influencer is I, steadfast is S, and conscientious is C. So DISC. That's why they just call it very simply DISC.
mhm.
Um, and there are specific traits for each one. But basically, when you look at the square and it's 4 quadrants like this set up, you've got your energy line
Mhm.
and your empathy line. Your horizontal line is your empathy line. So
Okay.
your energy line is that typically, if you're looking like, let's see if I can do this right, DISC, because I'm facing you, so I'm doing
Yeah.
this backwards.
Okay.
So DISC.
Gotcha.
So the D and the I tend to fall on the active side of things. They're more extroverted
Okay.
and tend to recharge being around people, or at least being active. And then you have the C's and the S's that tend to be more reserved or more introverted or more energizing themselves by themselves. You know, they need kind of some quiet time in order to recharge their batteries. And then you have the empathy line, which the D's and the C's tend to fall in the empathy is how naturally, and by naturally, I don't know if it's all nature and a little bit nurture or what the deal is, but these are all set by the time you're about 10. So
Okay.
there's some genetics, there's some environment that's involved. To which percentage, I don't really know exactly all the ins and outs science, but percentages. But basically, the extent to which you are able to relate to other people, the willingness that you are able to extend your emotional self to another person, and not necessarily put yourself in their shoes, but at least attempt to relate. Um, C's and D's tend to be less capable of that. And the I's and the S's tend to be more capable of that. So that makes the D's and the C's not bad people. It just means that they're more task oriented.
Yes.
And the S's and the I's are going to be more people oriented.
Right. That makes
So
sense.
knowing all of that, there are aspects of things like time management, energy management, who's more talkative, who receives information, maybe in bullet point, who receives information more in numbers and data, who receives information through storytelling in a lot of details, who receives more information in asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of sort of types in there as an overview. And the purpose of DISC really and truly is more about, let me understand how I send and receive information, where I'm going to lean when it comes to decision making. And then beyond knowing myself, because know thyself is a good thing to do, it's now going to be able to help me to be able to recognize other people's communication style and where I might be A, running over them, or B, shying away from them, or maybe offended sometimes by what they say when maybe I don't have to be. I can kind of put that into perspective and say, they're not trying to be mean. I'm giving them too much information and they can't process it.
Yes.
Or maybe I'm what's not oversharing to me might feel like oversharing to them because that's not where they are, or they're not capable of relating to that. And it makes them uncomfortable. So now I can recognize it and say, oh, let me back up and let me make sure that I'm communicating in a way that's meaningful to them. In a sales situation, you're not going to get this in terms of money if you can't communicate to them in a way that's meaningful to them.
Yes.
And that became the linchpin for me. Was like, you can have techniques, you can have features and benefits, you can learn all that all day long. But if you don't grasp this part, then that's kind of like the nail in the coffin right off the bat.
Early in my career, I worked for a trade association, and we would go speak to architectural firms and engineering firms.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved going to speak to the
I think I know where you're
architectural
going with this.
firms. Yes. The engineering firms, everything was gray. The most colorful thing would be the apple on their desk. And I had the hardest time as a young professional getting started in my career. It took me a while, but I learned how to talk to the two different groups. But I stumbled all over the engineers at the beginning. They were looking at me like I had two heads. Because I don't know what I was doing wrong. I was doing a
You
lot
were
of wrong.
probably gregarious and
Yes.
you were,
Yes.
big gestures because
Yep.
spending time with you, you're like me. There's big gestures,
Yes.
there's big faces,
Yes.
and they're like,
They think
this
I'm
guy's
nuts.
energy is like all over me. What am I doing with this?
Yes. So
Can I just go back to my cubicle in the back in the corner in the dark, work on a spreadsheet? Leave me alone.
Yes. No, that's a good thing too you bring up, because we talked about this. I work out of my house a lot. That wears on me. I have to get
Yeah.
out and
Yeah.
go to a networking meeting or go to a function to be around people,
Sure.
whereas I'm used to being around people my whole career. So I'm learning how to manage that. That's important too.
Again,
Know
work-life
thyself.
balance.
Yeah,
It's a fallacy.
yeah.
You can't just expect to win by managing your time. And
Wow.
just like you can't You can't eat a big meal
Yeah.
on a Monday and expect to be healthy by Friday.
Let me
I
ask you.
mean,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, why do we go on vacation? Everybody talks about work-life balance. Well, I need to spend more time with my family. Well, I go on vacation, and then when I come home, I need to vacation from my vacation
Hmm.
because it's not about time off.
Hmm.
It's not about time where the time is spent. It's about energy. You have to manage your energy.
Yeah.
Am I getting my batteries recharged in between the hard stuff that I have to do?
That's so true.
And if you are an extrovert who needs people to be energized, you stay at home by yourself,
It's
like during COVID,
it
and
drains
you
you.
fall into a depression, you get drained.
It drains.
People who are the opposite, who need to recharge by themselves, they're around people all the time, they fall into anxiety because now all of a sudden they're with people all the time and can't shut it off.
Right.
So there's a balance in that.
Yeah, there is 100%. What about um? Okay, so let's somebody's thinking about this for sales, right? They meet a person like when I knew what I was walking into by the third or fourth time I went to an architect firm or to an
Mhm.
engineering firm. But when somebody's meeting somebody for the first time and they don't know what that person is, what's the best way for them to gauge where the person they know themselves, right? Let's say they understand that they are an I. How do they? What's the best way they can read somebody?
Okay, the first thing you gotta do is you gotta know what you're looking for.
Okay.
Okay, so with disc, D's tend to like bullets,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
bullet points.
Yep.
I's are gonna want stories. S's tend to want to ask questions, and C's tend to shy away from small talk and really just want data.
Just data. Okay.
So of some kind, it doesn't have to be numbers, but it might be some sort of data.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing you have to be willing to do is to make that call about them
Mm-hmm.
and not about you.
Listen.
You have to listen. And you have to listen actively, not only to what they're saying, but to their nonverbals that they're not saying. You have to really be paying attention. If their eyes start rolling back in their head
Mm.
when you're telling a story, chances are you're giving them too much information and you've lost them. So they're either going to be, they're not an I right there. Boom.
Right.
Okay. They're not an I. If you give them bullet points and they start asking questions, well, they might be an I or an S potentially, um, because they might want more information. The I would want to know more, expound, give me more detail, whereas the S might be, well, who else in your company wants that? S's tend to ask more who
Mm-hmm.
rather than what.
Okay.
So there are little
Nuances.
techniques you can learn
Yeah.
on that, but you really have to just be paying attention. And oftentimes, if I was going in to meet, let's say I was going to meet a group, I was going to do a discovery meeting. I gotten past the gatekeeper for whatever reason, and I made an appointment. And I know now all of a sudden I've got this appointment, and we're going to go in, and I'm just going to do discovery, and I'm going to have 2, 3 people in the room. The person that I have the relationship with, that I set the meeting up with, usually what I'll do is I'll ask them, I say, who in the room is going to make sure that everybody and their mother is good before a decision is made?
Mm.
That's my S.
Mm-hmm.
Who in the room is going to want nothing but data, preferably numbers, and I may need to bring a spreadsheet for? And that's your C. Who's going to want a case study or a story? That's your I. Who is going to need to move fast and want bullet points?
Mm.
That's going to be your D.
Wow. That's really smart. That's really, really smart. All
So
right.
you can just ask questions.
Yeah. And I know we could probably go on this subject for quite some time.
Yes.
Just to
Talk about this for all day.
microanalyze all the different scenarios, but you gave some great top level stuff. I think get people to begin to understand how they can actually leverage it and how they should become a student of it to leverage it. All right, 5 minutes of guts. What is that? All right, 5 minutes of guts. What is that?
2 years ago, when I used to be a Sandler international coach for the Louisiana franchise owner here, I ate, slept, and breathed Sandler. Like I just inhaled the whole thing. But interestingly enough, the thing that always stuck with me was 5 minutes of gut. At the time when I was a coach, I was a people pleaser, big time.
Mm-hmm.
I was a newly single parent. I was in major life change mode. And here I was selling something that I had not sold before. It was, training and all of that. And it was it's not like you can walk up to somebody's job site and see that they've got all this equipment on their yard and you can compare your equipment with their equipment. Right. But it was more of I had to ask a lot of questions. I had to learn. And so that was when I became familiar with this and really absorbed that. But then the thing was 5 minutes of guts. And David Sandler used to talk about that you don't need guts for the whole day.
Mhm.
You just need guts for the call you're in.
Mm.
Which then reminded me of the scripture that talks about, I give you enough light for the step you're on.
Mhm.
And then, it's like, okay, all of this is kind of, chain linking for me. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, I don't have to have enough energy to get through the whole day. I just have to get through this call. And then when I get done with that call, I can go back and go, okay, what worked? What didn't work? Take a breath, calm down, do something else, do something fun, eat some ice cream. Now I'll go do the next call.
Mhm.
Now I got to have 5 minutes of guts for that call. I am an extroverted extrovert, like
I would have never guessed.
totally extroverted extrovert. All right. I am energized by activity, by people. I'm like ready to go on the weekends. I'm like, go, go, go. And yet when I was in my really first hardcore sales job, corporate sales job, I can remember being in the car, getting ready to walk into a business. Mind you, I meet strangers everywhere. I talk to people at the grocery store. I mean, my kids are like, would you stop talking to them? I mean, like that's how I am normally. And yet here I was going in. All I had to do was go in and get a business card. Like I knew I wasn't going to make a sale. I just had to go find out who the decision maker was and get their business card. That was it. And yet I'm sitting in the car and I am terrified, shaking. And I couldn't figure out why. And then I started focusing on, why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? Well, that stalled me. And then I realized, okay, go back to your training. David Sandler always said you only need 5 minutes of gut. This isn't going to take that long. You're just going to go in, you're going to ask some questions, you're going to get a business card. That's it. And so I sucked it up, said, okay, I just need 5 minutes of guts for this call. And I got out and I was like, okay, I straightened myself up. I walked over to the curb. I was wearing heels. I almost tripped and fell flat on my face on the curb. Got all the way to the door, went to pull the door, and the door was locked.
Oh, geez. Make it start over.
And then I realized it was 7 a.m.
Oh.
They weren't open yet. So I go back to the car and I breathe a sigh of relief for a moment going, yay, I didn't have to walk in there. Only to realize, oh crap.
You got to do it again. You got to
come back in an hour.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck is that? So the second time actually worked better because once I had psyched myself up for it once, I was like, okay, really? Don't trip on the curb. And so then I was like, in my mind, I had these little tips like, don't trip on the curb, feel your heels. Don't freak out. You're going to be fine. And you ain't got to be perfect. You just got to get the business card. That's all you got to do. And, but yeah, there are all kinds of reasons why people have fear. That's just one example that I had on a prospecting call. A lot of people have fear in the sales process throughout the whole thing. They might be great at the prospecting part, but when they go to present, it's when they fall apart. Or when they go to close, or when they go to follow up, or when they go to networking. There's all different kinds of reasons why people experience, fear at any level. They're going to tell me no, or they're going to look at me like I'm ridiculous because the price is too much. I can't afford it. Why could they? There's just a million reasons why somebody would have that in their head. And so legit, you just need 5 minutes. You just need to gather yourself for that moment. And then again, that goes back to what I said before about managing your energy. Okay, now you spent your energy. Let's reward yourself with whatever energizes you. You've spent that energy. Let's get it back. How do we get it back? What does that look like?
Yeah. What does that look like?
For me, it's calling Ewell going, guess what?
Affirmation. Affirmation. There you go. Yes.
Well, sometimes it's not necessarily affirmation. It's, hey, I need you to laugh with me about this.
Just to get
going. Because yes. I need to not laugh at myself because then I'm really going to feel crazy if I'm laughing by myself. I need somebody else to think this is funny too.
Yes. I love it. All right. Well, that is the perfect bridge for the next issue, and that is pursuing no, because when you're gonna get those no's, and that's the thing that sits in the background that provides the fear, powers all the fear that people are afraid of.
Yep.
So let's unpack
So I was
pursuing
talking
the
to
no. Or know the
I was
no.
talking I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, actually at a conference, and we were talking about no. And I said, I'd rather have a yes or a no. Nobody wants maybe or not now or call me in 6 months. I don't want to have to call you 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. You don't want me hounding you.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to your voicemail. If we don't have a relationship where you can either say yes or no, and even if it's a yes, sometimes even the yeses are not right now,
That's not true.
So
True,
you
yes, yeah.
right. So you kind of have to kind of get to that point where you're cutting through the stuff, to make sure you get to the meat of what's going on. And one of the ways that I felt like we can is distinguish ourselves from everybody else out there who's also got a script and sounds like a salesperson. I mean, you don't want to sound like the typical salesperson. And it's to be transparent. Look, I'm here to do a job. What if we went into that prospecting call and said to the guy, or to the lady, I have a image in my mind of this guy that I talked to, because I actually did this once. I said, look, I'm doing my job just like y'all are doing your job. I'm in sales. I'm expected to talk to a certain number of people, but I need him to tell me no.
Mhm.
So can we just get him out here and I can talk to him for like a minute or two, and I can tell him what I need to tell him, and then he can just tell me no, and then I can go back to then I can go on to the next person, and I can go back to my boss and said, yeah, he said no.
Mhm.
And they were like, really? And I said, yeah. And they were like, so that's it? You just going to say something and that's going to be it? I'm like, yeah. Well, the guy comes out and I give my spiel. And the first thing I told him was, look, I'm already kind of half expecting you're going to tell me no, you don't know me. We don't really have a relationship. I don't think you really have a lot of brand awareness with my company. But here's the deal. This is my job, just like you have a job. I just need to go back to my boss and tell him that I did this presentation and you said no. Could you help me out? And he's like, sure. So I go and tell him what it is that I'm doing. And I said, when I was done, did my little 60-second or a minute and a half, whatever it was, and just told him, this is what I'm looking for. These are my questions. Do you want to have a further conversation? And then when he went to say something, I said, now's where you can tell me no.
Mhm.
And gave him permission to tell me no. And he went, actually, like, I kind of like you. Like, you're appealing to me right now with what you're saying. And we do kind of would like to talk about this. Maybe now's the time I tell you I would like to know more.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, what do you want to know more about? And do you want to know it now, or do you want me to come back another time? And he was like, no, I want to know now. Do you have something? I said, can you wait 5 minutes? Let me go get my brochure out of my car. He goes, yeah. So I come back in, I give him my brochure, and that time wound up not being a full sale. He had to take it to a board, and the board wound up saying no. But he loved the whole approach because it was different. I gave him permission to say no.
You gave him an exit.
I gave him an out.
Yeah.
And I was transparent enough,
Yeah.
5 minutes of guts, to say, I need your help. I'm doing a job just like you are. I'm just trying to meet
Mhm.
my salary here and feed my family. Can you help me out? Hear me out,
You
and
were
then just tell
human.
me no.
You were human to him.
Right. And he was like, okay, great. And the more no's I got, 9 times out of 10, if you go and you pursue no,
Hmm.
if you get 10 no's, but you have 12 calls, you might have 2 yeses in there.
That's right.
And you might have more opportunities to present. Or, as we said before, not everybody's going to be your client, but more people will be your referral partner.
Mm.
And I've actually had people who have said no to me, my service, but who have said, y'all have to talk to her and
That's right.
become a referral partner because, like you, they were like, I didn't forget you. And I get what you do, and I can't use it, but so-and-so can.
That's perfect.
So there's so many ways that pursuing that no
Opens
turns it opens doors. Number one, you don't sound like everybody else. Number two, you're giving them permission
Mhm.
to be in the catbird seat and say no as a decision maker. Number three, you kind of psyching yourself out a little bit because you already know the no might be coming. So you're not afraid of that rejection,
Yeah.
and you can make it more about them. You can say, oh,
And it makes the conversation natural.
right,
Where if
right.
it's a script, it's just, I mean, scripts are good as long as you
Yeah.
can embed them where they're natural. And you just made that all natural too.
Well, you
It's a
have to
normal
make it,
conversation.
yeah, you have to make it you
Yeah.
more than anything. It's if you sound like AI
Yeah. It's terrible.
these days, then, what's the difference between you and a bot?
Yeah.
But if you add your personality into the script, that's what develops that bond and rapport. And
Okay.
people are afraid of that. Sometimes people are afraid of sharing themselves in that
Yeah.
way, especially because of social media.
Yeah. All right. Let's do this. Let's talk about you're on a mission. Now, you're very mission driven. You're very passionate about what you do, in case anybody hadn't figured that out yet.
I was about to say,
Uh,
is that foreign at this point?
So let's talk about what you're working on, because you've got a great program you've put together to help people who are want and sharpen their skills in sales. It's salespeople always need a little bit of coaching.
Right. So I was approached to kind of take some of my personal experience and kind of put it on paper. And at first I was like, well, I'm not some award winning. I mean, I've won awards, but it's not some big award winning salesperson. I'm not Simon Sinek. I'm not Dave Sandler. I'm not Dale Carnegie or, any of the big guys. And
You're
the folks
relatable.
who asked me about it,
You're relatable. That's what
well,
you are.
that's what, well, they
You're
said,
human.
they
Relatable.
said, well, if they need those people, then they can go buy that.
Yeah.
But what they need is and in particular is the failures. And I have put together a course called The Influence Advantage
Mhm.
from Hello to Yes. And I use DISC as the foundation, and DISC is all through it, every aspect, prospecting, what prospecting is, what prospecting isn't, the things that make us terrified about sales, what sales is, what sales isn't. And by the way, everybody's in sales all the time. In case you didn't know, if you are having a Christmas party and somebody in your family is bringing that dumb fruitcake that's going to go in the trash and you don't want them to bring that this year, you want them to bring something else,
You're in
honey,
sales.
you in sales. If you're going on a job interview, you're in sales.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter what your industry is. It doesn't matter what your chosen profession is. At some point, you're going to have to approach somebody because you need something from them, and you're going to be in sales.
Mhm.
So this course is good for anybody at any level, really, really, particularly the newbies.
Mhm.
And I just kind of go through what I did, and I'm really transparent about where I screwed up.
Mhm.
Where did I, like the story that I just told about being terrified? I
Sure.
understand,
Mhm.
even as a truly like way far extroverted person, I'm not above the fear of rejection. I'm not above the fear of the sale, any part of the sales process. I know what that feels like. Like in my bones, I know what
Mhm.
that's like. And so we talk about that. And my whole purpose in doing this was to create something that would allow people to journal a little bit. We're going to do some in-person time, like for about an hour. And it's an 8-week course. It's designed to be 8 weeks long, simply because I wanted repetition. Number
Yeah.
one, because adults learn by repetition. And number two, 8 weeks is about enough time for you to learn a new habit.
Yeah.
So the goal here is 1 hour with me. We kind of go through some of these points in each module, and there's discussion, there's role play, and then you go out and do that thing. And then you have the workbook is not just a bunch of fill in the blank from class. There's a couple of those, maybe fill in bullets or whatever. But there's a lot of journaling in it because I want you to self-reflect. I want you to think about what worked, what didn't work. Where did I have fear about this? Or maybe where was I not afraid? Where did this really make me feel confident? And how can I hook into that when I get to this prospect
Yeah.
process, part of the process?
Mhm.
So there's so much of that becomes self-discovery. And so really I'm guiding you through that self-discovery. And this is all things that I had to figure out on my own. And it's like, well, if I can give you some of my experience and say,
Yes.
here, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be the award winning salesperson. If you can feed your family and meet your budget and take care of some things and enjoy a little bit of it along the way, then that's most people that I know that are in sales.
Yeah.
They're not they're not all in it for the awards. They're not all in it for that. They're just people who saw a pathway to
Mhm.
making enough money to feed their family.
Yeah.
And have some sense of enjoyment about it.
Yes.
So we talk about the rewards of it. We talk about the downfalls of it. And we talk about especially like get off your phone.
Yeah.
Get out from behind technology. This is a job that's gonna require you to get face to face. Why? And how do I do that and be a real person and be vulnerable? How do I show up with my core values? Do you even know what your core values are?
Yeah. It's a good, you dig in
Most
all
people don't even know those things. Most people haven't thought about what about this process terrifies me. They just know that it does.
that makes sense.
So now we're going to start digging into all of those aspects. Cause again, you learn technique and I have closes in here. I have, okay, take these, closed ended questions and turn them into open ended questions. But then it's, okay, which one did you use
Mhm.
and which one worked best
Mhm.
and which one and why? Why did you like it?
Mhm.
Why did it make you feel good? What was the response that you got? Did you try that same one with a D, an I, an S, or a C? Did they have different responses? What did that look like?
So you
So
you dive in deep with these
yeah,
folks, which is great. All right.
yeah, because again, just like with disc, I see such a need for this kind of discussion that
100%.
normally is initiated in the workplace,
Yes.
but it spills over into
Life.
your home life. It spills over into your relationships with your spouse, your partner, your parents, your siblings, your kids.
Mhm.
It's just part of life. I like to look at this more as life discussion. This is life skills, not just soft skills for work.
This is perfect. This is the perfect place to land this, to let people hang
Okay.
on to that last piece, because that's what I would call lanyard. You're coming in there for sales, but you're also going to realize, hey, this applies to me and my family. All
Yeah.
right. How do people find?
So I have a website, www.blendedstrategiesllc.com.
Okay.
You can all,
We'll hot link that.
yep. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
Angie Weidel on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And then I'm usually involved with Go Engage somewhere. I'm on there as well. So if you go to Go Engage, they actually have this new app called the Engage Pages,
Mhm.
and I'm involved as a sponsor on that, so you can see
I'll include that
there
link
too.
for the people in Louisiana. People around the United States hear this, but for the people in Louisiana, New
Yeah,
Orleans, and Baton Rouge, that's a great networking group.
yeah,
And that's how you came to make a pitch for us to our group
right.
so we could collaborate. So I'll have that link as well. I have one more question for you before we go,
Okay.
and I'm going to ask you to answer it in a minute. What is one piece of advice? Yes, if it's possible. One piece of advice you'd give yourself, your younger self, when you started out in your career journey. If you could go back in time and say, "Hey, Angie, this is what you need to do."
One piece of advice that I would give myself.
Yeah.
Nothing worth having is going to come easy. If you want it, go get it.
Love it.
If you dream about it, then pray about it and pursue it.
Mm.
And it'll either happen or it won't. But if it doesn't, you will learn along the way everything you need for the next part of your journey. So there really is no failure
Mm.
here. You may fail in the moment, but you are not a failure.
Mm.
So pursue what you want wholeheartedly, but think long and hard about what that thing is that you want.
Mm,
Because some things are going to be really, really good for you and some things won't.
mm,
And you might not know the difference right now. So surround yourself with good people
that's
and pursue it. If you want it, pursue it.
you hear that, closers. We're gonna close with that right there. Pursue where your passions lie. Pursue what you really, really want, but you got to know what it is. All right, Angie, I want to thank you. This has been fantastic. I love your energy, and it's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to get with me and let me share because this is definitely something I'm passionate about.
I'm
This is
grateful.
how this is my version of changing the world.
It's what and you're doing it one life at a time, and
Amen.
that makes an impact. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is a wrap with Angie. And keep in mind, the energy you felt from her is through video. Imagine meeting her in person. She truly, she makes an impact on a room when she walks in, and her enthusiasm, without question, is contagious. So if you need sales guidance, make sure you get in touch with Angie. I appreciate her being here for you, and I appreciate you being here to the very end. That makes you an official closer, and that puts you in the top 1%. Just make sure to subscribe, ring the bell, all those things. Share this with somebody else. And look, those things help us produce more shows to bring to you, and you'll get them first. All right, you know the drill. Be intentional. Make today a great day. Bye bye.